Before, literally would have just been like, I'm buying that and I'm buying that right now. And there you go,
And
it's
it's
bought.
fine. Yeah.
I don't need to answer it to anyone. Whereas now it's like, I want to buy that. But before I even make that purchase, I kind of need to have this discussion with Lindy to be like, hey, I want to buy this thing over here.
Hi guys, welcome back to another discussion with us. My name is Lindsay and this is Tando, and together we are Skilled Financiers. If you're joining us for the first time, we want to welcome you and we're super excited to have you here with us. So today we're going to be doing things slightly differently to how we normally do them. So recently we put out a story on Instagram asking you to ask us any questions that you had so that we'd address them and answer them. And the day has come. We will be answering your questions.
We're going through these questions because, they are going to be about us personally, but they should give you some insight into what money looks like in a relationship, but from our own story, not just teaching you, from our own experiences, but really telling you the real juice about what we've done in our journey and the things that we have experienced. So what is the first question?
So the first question that we got, interesting one, is when did you get married?
So when did we get married?
Do you not know the day when we got married?
No, in my defense, we've got two dates. We've got the day that we got legally married, and then we got the date that we had the white wedding.
So when did we get legally married?
7th of February, which is your birthday, in fact.
Yeah, obviously you're never going to forget that one. And I'm pretty sure that's why he actually suggested we do it on that day so that he would never forget it. But yeah, so the legal wedding was on the 7th of February, and then the actual white wedding was on the 23rd of May. So we have been married for 6 years and we are growing strong, going on to 7 next year. So yeah, that's when we got married.
The next question is actually really, really interesting. So when was our first money conversation? If you remember it. I do remember a conversation, but I want to see what you remember to see if we're on the same page. Which one do you remember as our first money conversation?
Ooh. To be fair, I think the first money conversation was to do with who was going to pay on a date that we went to.
Yeah.
And I think whilst you're dating, I feel like the main questions that will come up initially are those ones like, so who's paying, or how much are we paying on this date, or how much are we paying for this? So I don't think it was who was paying. It was more how much are we paying, how much are we contributing in terms of this date that we're going on.
The one I was thinking about was when we were having a conversation about student overdraft.
Right.
Because at the time, you were still in university and I had just kind of finished, and we both had student overdrafts, but I'd paid mine off deliberately. And I think you were like a bit, I don't know, like a bit shocked or something. Like, why is he paying off a student overdraft? Like already, what's the deal with that?
Because I think I had that nice NatWest one where it was like, after you finish uni, you can stay a couple of years and you still don't get a charge interest on it. So I was like, well, what's the point of paying it off? You can pay it off when you get a job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I paid it off immediately. I didn't wait till like the 3-year bit. And I think that was like our first proper like money discussion about, okay, but why are you paying this debt off? And I'm there like, no, debt is something I don't want to like live in. And then we're having this really interesting discussion about money, but like we didn't even plan it. It just kind of happened naturally, didn't it? So that was quite cool. But yeah, that was our first money conversation. Would love to know what's your first money conversation that you've had with your partner. Let us know in the comments below. What was the biggest issue when you started managing money together, and how did you deal with it?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I feel like the biggest issue was just putting money together.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that when you're dating, a lot of the times you keep your money separate anyway. It's only until, I feel like with a lot of people, it's only until you either move in together or you start living together or you get married. That's when you start to join your finances. And the minute you join your finances together, it's like, whoa, hold on a minute. Because I had my own way of managing money. You had your own way of managing money. I had my own spreadsheet that I was using whilst I was at uni. And I felt like, yeah, it works for me. It doesn't have to be so complex. It just has to have this is what I have and this is how much I'm paying for stuff. Whereas you were into the more complex one, like list everything out, make sure it's in detail and stuff. So that was the first thing. And the way that we got around that was taking the time to sit down and have conversations about it. Because for the longest time, we butted heads over it. Because you don't realize that, okay, you come in with your habits, I come in with my habits, but you have to sort of adjust and find ways to deal with each other and adjust and find ways to actually work together.
Yeah, for me, it was probably just the loss of autonomy.
Yeah,
Like, I was so used to just doing what I wanted, as everybody would, with your money at any point, any time.
absolutely.
You can spend your money however, but the minute you then combine your finances with your partner, you lose that freedom, or at least you lose a part of that freedom.
Yeah.
Before, literally would have just been like, I'm buying that and I'm buying that right now, and there you go,
And
it's
it's
bought.
fine. Yeah.
I don't need to answer it to anyone. Whereas now it's like, I want to buy that, but before I even make that purchase, I kind of need to have this discussion with Lindy to be like, hey, I want to buy this thing over here. And that discussion was sometimes a bit tricky when like you were in disagreement with me wanting to make that
Yeah.
financial purchase. How do we deal with it? I think over time we just grew and we just had discussions around, okay, what works for you? What works for me?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that we maintain a level of autonomy, particularly with personal spending and expenses? But then how do we work together with the financial decisions that will impact the both of us? And that's kind of how we dealt with that one, to be fair.
So that actually leads us on to the next question, which we're asked, which is, what was your first month of marriage like from a financial perspective?
Oh, we lived the life.
Yeah.
Didn't save, didn't invest, didn't pay debts. We literally just lived
It
the
was
life.
like, what's saving?
What
What's
is that?
investing? Like, why? When you're going through the process of getting married, you're having to save a lot of money in order to have your wedding. So we felt like we'd gone through struggle life. So why should we keep living struggle life now that we're married? So we were like, nah, live life, enjoy, do what you want to
Yeah.
do. We'll
Basically,
think
it
about
meant
everything else later.
it was just literally a free for all. Couldn't care less about the impact that had on our finances. We literally just said, yep, he's spending it.
Live.
So financially speaking, it was probably not the wisest way to spend our
Yeah.
first sort of introduction to marriage. But I don't regret that. I'm not going to lie. I look back
Yeah.
on it and we had fun. So, hey, here we are. We survived.
So the next question that we received is, how do we include date nights and couples retreats in our budget? And also, when you do go on date nights, who pays?
Great question. I'll tackle the first one. To be fair, it's all in the budget for me. As part of that budget, it's setting aside if you want to, you can even call it a relationship fund, almost like a sinking fund for your relationship. You put money into that fund, and that's the money you're going to use for anything to do with you and your partner going
Yeah.
away or spending time together or date nights or whatever the case is. But you're putting money aside deliberately
Yeah.
for your dates and for your relationship. It's actually a very powerful thing to do because it keeps, in our experience, it keeps the fire burning. It keeps us entertained. It keeps us engaged. It keeps us involved and invested in our
Yeah.
relationship.
And you can actually just open a Monzo pot, I guess, and just put money in there every month. You might not need to use the money every month, but you might find that 6 months down the line, you might be like, oh, let's go on a couples retreat with other couples, but the money's already there. So you're not having to then fork out money out of this month's budget, but you already have it. And that's really great. So to answer the second part, which is who pays when you go on date nights, we actually have a pot for date nights in our budget. So we normally just have allocated amount of money that goes into that as well. However, when we then do the spontaneous ones or the surprise ones, we don't mind paying. So if I'm taking Tando out, I'll pay, not an issue. It doesn't bother me. But we do have that allocated money, so we just use that most of the times anyway.
Yeah, and you could do the same. So if you're in a relationship and you're thinking you don't want to combine your finances, or you do want to combine your finances,
Yeah.
whichever way you're going to sit on that scale, it doesn't really matter. But what you can do is to say, right, let's make sure that we have money for our date
Yeah.
nights. And that could become your first ever sort of joint account, if you'd like to say, we are both putting money into this pot of money, and this money is going to be used for us to pay when we go to restaurants.
So the next question that we received is, how do you deal with money arguments? And what's one thing that you've now done to reduce money arguments in your relationship?
I think you just have the argument. I don't think, we avoid arguments. An argument is probably a strong word. disagreements is probably the
Yeah.
word that makes that's probably more better in our situation. What we do is we voice our opinions and we voice
Right.
our positions, even if they are in conflict with each other. It's not a case of saying, I need to win this fight, you do what I want, and if you don't do what I want, then you are against me. That's not the approach. The approach is more like, how can we come together
Right.
and have an agreement that works for the both of us, even if it means I don't get what I want in
Yeah.
this discussion. The reason why you have disagreements in a relationship is because, again, you are both two different people with two different ways of working. And the way you handle it, in my mind, just put aside the ego and pride in that moment and just say, okay, how can we work together to get an outcome that's going to work for the both of us, that's going to be good for the both of us, without name calling, without shaming, or without saying, yes, listen to me, I'm better than you,
Yeah.
or my idea or opinion is far more valuable than yours. There's none of that. It's really just a matter of understanding how can we work together still and not make money something that comes between us.
And I guess for me, there's certain things that we then started to do as well when we'd have disagreements that have then helped us along the journey. And the first one is to listen. So when your partner's then saying to you, well, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with using our money this way, try and listen to their point of view. Because it's very easy when you're dealing with money to want to put your point across and not really listen to what the other person's saying. So listen to each other. Try to understand where the other person is coming from. Understanding where someone's coming from will help you see, like, okay, so they're suggesting we do this with the money, and this is the reason why they're suggesting it. That could help literally avoid a whole argument altogether. The other thing is adjustment. When you're in a relationship, you learn to adjust. That, okay, I would have liked to have this my way, but this time round, I just have to adjust and we do what actually works for the relationship. And that might be what Tanda suggested, but it's all about adjusting when you need to adjust.
Yeah, that's really great. The next question is, have you ever found yourselves without money at the beginning of the month, and how did you deal with it? We found ourselves without money at the beginning of the month, in the middle of the month, and at the end of the month. How did we deal with it? Honestly speaking, it's going to be, and I'm not saying this, to kind of brush off the question, but it's going to be such a simple answer. Not easy, but simple answer. And that's going to be the B word. It's going to be to budget your money. If you budget your money, essentially what you're saying is, how can I make sure that the money that I'm getting on my payday will last me until my next payday? And that's the point of a budget. We had to learn how to budget.
Yeah.
Especially being the two of us, we had to learn how to budget in a way that works for the both of us, which is a whole different story altogether. Now, we understand that at times, there are things that come up and creep up out of the blue. So beyond budgeting, there are other things that you can also put in place, like an emergency fund, sinking funds, even insurances to that matter. But the point is that your finances will cover you month on month, no matter what happens.
And I guess if you're finding that you are budgeting, but you still don't have enough money, then you could go back and just look at what can I take out of my budget? Because what's then happening is you're probably not earning enough to then do everything that you want in your budget or cover everything that's in your budget. So it means just going back, taking out certain things or doing those extra shifts or getting a better job to then address that issue. But definitely the budget is the key in this one.
So the next question is, do you ever feel guilty when family and friends ask you for money and you have to say no?
No. That's my answer. I'm sorry, but it's a no for me. And let me tell you why. I've had to learn that I shouldn't feel guilty about it. I've tried to learn to understand that there's no way I can skip my mortgage, for example, to then help someone else financially. Because if I'm skipping my mortgage for the month, I'm doing a disservice to myself by doing that. And I'm pretty sure that family member wouldn't want me to do that and put myself in a really awkward position. It's okay for you to be really honest and just say, I don't have the money this time. If you genuinely don't have it, be honest and say you don't have it.
So for me, I actually come across this from a different angle. When family and friends ask me for money, I've taken the stance that I am not the sole provider of finances from my family. I'm not the central bank of family and friends, basically. They have other family and other friends that they can ask. So if in the moment I can't give to that person, then I can't give to that person. They have other people. Maybe they just haven't thought of those other people because in the moment they're so desperate, and I'm the first person that came to their minds. But genuinely speaking, there are other people, right? Family
Yeah.
means it's not just me. Family means that there's brothers, sisters, cousins,
Community.
uncles.
It's
There's
a
a community.
yeah.
Friendships, same thing. And so I've just taken a stance of understanding that maybe I can't give you financially, but I can definitely connect you with the next person who might be able to help. And that's pretty much the stance that I've taken. So I don't feel guilty at all because of that, understanding that I am not the sole central bank of family and friends.
Yeah. So the next one is, what were your first jobs? So for myself, my first job was working at McDonald's, right? If you've watched a lot of our videos, you've heard me talk about a job that really affected me to a point where I had to quit. And that was the job. To be honest, I was grateful for it. It gave us some money and it put us in a good footing, and it was an okay job. But in that particular job, I wasn't treated right or appreciated enough. And I decided to put my mental health first and put myself first. So that's why I left the job. So yeah, that was my first proper job, that is, yeah.
Yeah, my first proper job was actually selling home insurance over the phones. I was 17 years old. I knew nothing about insurance, but somehow found myself with a job selling home insurance over the phone during my A levels, and that was pretty cool. It taught me a lot of things. Why did you leave the bankruptcy sector? So you used to work in the bankruptcy sector.
Yeah, so I used to work in the bankruptcy sector. And to be honest, the things that I learned whilst I was in that job are some of the reasons why I'm so big on skilled finances and teaching people to deal with their debt and handle their debt and not let it get to a point where it gets so bad that bankruptcy is the only option. But I felt like after being there for over 4 years, I got to a point where I was like, well, I don't feel challenged by the work that I'm doing. I'm not feeling like I'm being pushed, or there's no opportunity for growth in this particular job that I'm in. So it's better for me to leave. So I ended up leaving. So the next question is, how did you cope financially when Lindy wasn't working? So after we got married, there was a period where I wasn't working and we only had one salary. So how did we cope?
I think we just had a budget, right? And we had some emergency fund savings as well. So the emergency fund savings enabled us to pay for the other things that couldn't be covered by the budget. I think the emergency fund is probably the biggest thing that really saved us in that period,
Yeah.
to be able to pay for our living expenses, whilst it was just myself working and earning money at the time, because my salary would obviously cover the bills, and then the emergency fund will cover other things that came up that we
Yeah.
needed to pay for, that we didn't quite have the funds to pay for from my salary at the time. And that's really how we coped with that situation.
So the last lot of questions are quite interesting because they're based on skilled finances and us as skilled finances. So the first question is, how do you guys find working together on skilled finances as a couple?
I enjoy it. I think it's great. I think it's good. It's something that we are both passionate about. You know, we're both passionate about helping you to manage your money in a better way,
Yeah.
helping you and your partner to manage money in a better way, and helping you to reach your financial goals and your financial dreams. And that's something that really drives us. So I think it's great to be in a position where you can partner with somebody who is also bought into the vision that you are passionate about equally. And I think it's great.
Yeah, I love working together actually. And I feel like it's just an addition to our daily life, something that we then get to do together as well. I will say there was initially when we started, we had to then learn how each other works because obviously we have our own ways of working. When I'm in my 9 to 5, I work a certain way and Tanda works a certain way. So now bringing that into the relationship, but then starting a business together, we definitely had to learn how each other works and then adjust and work together in a very positive way. But I definitely wouldn't change it for anything. I absolutely enjoy it. And because we're doing something that we love, it makes it even the more better. So the next question that we got asked is, what is your biggest goal for 2022 and what's new for skilled finances in 2022?
I think our biggest goal for 2022 is to really build the community of skill finances, a
Yeah.
community of people who are also passionate and committed to working together as a team with your partner, with your finances, because couples finances is a big area, and therefore our goal for this coming year is to continuously build this community of people who are passionate about learning about money and making sure that money doesn't come in between them and their relationship with their partner. So watch out in 2022. We've got some ideas coming up. Yeah, we have got some great plans in terms of putting together some content for you that will enable you and help you to do just that in your own life and with your partner. So we're going to have a couple of things on the draw. We can't talk about them just yet because we're still building them, but definitely excited for you to see them when they launch.
And I guess the other thing is we're excited about being a bit more personal with Skilled Finances, because we realize that people relate to us when we're quite personal and we talk about our lives as well. So that's something that we'll be doing more of in 2022 and having more conversations with you guys. We love having conversations with you guys. We love doing things like lives where we get to communicate with you, but it's just having that open conversation with our followers. Okay, so the final question that we have is, what's your greatest vision for Skilled Finances?
That's a strong question.
It is.
Yeah, that's a very strong question.
Vision is like purpose. What is your purpose?
I think the greatest vision for Skilled Finances is to impact on the various stats around that, the fact that money is one of the leading causes of divorce and separation, and that impact for that stat is some sort of reduction on that stat, because that stat is something that definitely doesn't sit well with us.
Yeah.
You know, we're a married couple and we're passionate about money, and we kind of see the benefits of, you know, when money and relationships really does work, it really works well. And so seeing the stats of money is one of the leading causes of divorce and separation doesn't quite sit well with us, really. And so we want to play our part in reducing that stat, or tackling that problem and giving people the solution to come out the other side.
Yeah.
To be able to work together with their finances.
And I think for me, it's always been about helping couples work together with their money. And yeah, that just sums it all up for me. As long as we're helping people to work together, that's it for me.
Yeah, and that is the summary of all the questions. Now, if you would like us to address one of your questions, if you have a question for us, feel free to follow us at Skilled Finances on Instagram and send us a DM. We'd look forward to hearing from you on Instagram for sure. But we thank you for joining us today. It has been super, super fun for us to open up about our journey, our thoughts, our plans, our visions, and definitely watch out for what's coming up ahead with Skilled Finances. If this sounds like something that really vibes with you and you really connect with our vision, then let us know. Subscribe, like the video, comment down below. We'd love to hear from you, and we would definitely see you soon.